Okay. So it is. Oh my God. It is November 16th. Welcome to Hidden Knowledge of the Modern Times. We are your hosts, Samael and Amman, of course. You know who we are at this point, I'm sure, but there it is at the bottom of the screen. I am Samael, this is Amman, and we are here hosting another episode of Hidden Knowledge of the Modern Times. So, how are you this evening? We have tonight on our schedule, Deep State 2, How Deep Does It Go? So we're going to be talking about the topics that we missed last time and elaborating on how far the deep state is involved in our society.
And also the second half of the conversation, which evolved into some sort of ancient anthropology.
Oh yes, I'm sure we will end up talking about aliens and anthropology. Such is the way of life.
Right.
All roads lead to Rome.
And then beyond.
So let's go ahead and introduce our studio audience here. I'm gonna flip this camera around. Get this bad boy up.
There we go.
Disregard that. Don't look at that yet.
Well, we have on the couch the Mushroom King, Ephraim, and a spooky, scary skeleton boy going by the name of Dylan.
Greetings.
What's up? What's up? How you doing?
Saw, dude.
I saw you.
There we go. Wow, look at those celebrities.
Absolute fucking units.
Wow, I'm impressed. And all of them. And we have over here Steven.
The man, the myth, the legend, mostly the man though.
But mostly mortal, yeah.
Yeah, my allergies are attested to that.
What is that?
Allergies?
Are you whining about human suffering?
Yeah, pretty much.
Tell us more about that human suffering.
Can you guys make it stop?
Nope.
I'll even take a simple Zyrtec. I don't care.
Yeah, maybe you can take a Xanax or something and forget about it for a a bit.
Yeah, Xanax? What? No, a Zyrtec.
And just, forget about your life. Zyrtec? Does that help?
Dimension.
Yes, it does, immensely. I love it.
Incredible.
That's beautiful. That's very inspiring. Okay, so what is our first topic for Deep State 2?
Well, we know how deep it goes. It goes.
It goes deep, but how deep does it really go?
It goes. No, it goes very, very deep. I mean, if you were to look at the founding of the country as something done by like people within some sort of secret society, then
okay, yeah, you could definitely see it that way.
Like our state as it exists now goes well deeper than the government as we know it.
You think so? I think that it would be really surface level at that point to just go ahead and establish the government that you want. I wouldn't think that you would need a deep state at the founding of a country, because then you could just implement it the way you wanted.
I mean, yeah, but it's also easy to understand that secret societies and secrets in general, like hidden knowledge of non-modern times.
Are we talking about like the Freemasons?
Yeah, for example, right? Or like any of these guys, you know? Well, things that have existed prior to now.
Why don't we just
and prior to the
open this book
1700s.
and point at a topic? And then
What about the assassins?
Order of the Solar Temple.
Oh, isn't this this was a suicide cult? This is
The Order of the Solar Temple was a Neo-Templar group that incorporated the occult mysticism in the anticipation of an apocalyptic event. Yeah, this is the one that set them. You told me about, right?
Yeah, with the plastic bags full of gasoline.
Yeah, it set themselves all on fire.
Well, after they set the buildings on fire for the most part, they mostly just shot each other.
On October 4th, 1994, authorities in Charades, Switzerland went to investigate reported fires at a farmhouse occupied by members of the OST, the Order of the Solar Temple. They found 22 corpses, many wearing ceremonial garments. Some had suffocated themselves to death with plastic bags over their heads, others had been shot. The next day, the bodies of 25 more members were found in burning houses in the village of Granges-sur-Salvan, Switzerland. Among them were the bodies of Luc Jouret and Joseph de Membre.
Yep.
It was soon learned that 6 burned bodies found in Quebec on October 4th were members of the cult. The next year, 16 more bodies were found dead in France, and in 1997, 5 more people killed themselves in Quebec. More than 40 of the victims had been murdered, and no one was ever convicted. And you know what's funny is that this is still around today. I don't think it's very popular anymore, because of the suicide death cult, but apparently it's still around based on like...
Yeah, it was actually mostly done by a con man, similar to the way the Scientology is.
I saw that, yeah.
That Jean Ferret guy. What he did was, he basically did a whole smoke and mirrors act where he convinced people that he was pulling out like Excalibur and the fucking other holy artifacts.
He was like some sort of living legend.
Yeah. Yes.
He was an incarnated god, right?
Right, something like that. He was basically just a good magician who had a really expensive set because he stole all the people's money and built a set with it.
I know. Yeah, and that seems to be a running theme throughout the whole order. Let's see what some of the other orders are on this book.
Right, there's more interesting ones than that. That's just a fucked up con.
Not the most important order, the first order.
The Pythagorean Brotherhood. You guys know anything about the Pythagorean Brotherhood?
No, I don't.
Know about the theorem.
Do you know about the Pythagorean Brotherhood?
I sent you that thing about the beans with the Pythagorean Brotherhood. Yeah, the cult of Pythagoras.
And they also believe beans are...
I don't think everybody in the cult believed that. I think just Pythagoras believed that.
Beans have souls, guys. According to the guy who came up with a squared plus b squared.
You guys know about the Pythagorean theorem?
Yeah.
Yeah, he also believed that beans were equivalent to human lives.
Wait, beans?
Yes, beans.
Like beans?
Yes, like beans the vegetable.
What?
The beans were made of human flesh, and that they were equivalent to human lives, and that stepping on beans were just as bad of a crime as murder.
What kind of man?
Sons of Liberty? That sounds more like what we were just talking about, actually.
Skull and Bones.
That was kind of
It's
hard to
Masonic,
know more
I think.
about.
Spooky, The Chosen Ones. There's a lot of... Oh, Heaven's Gate is in here. This is a really great magazine.
It's just another suicide cult, though.
I'm glad I picked it
kind of
up.
boring. Like, Jonestown was the most intense.
Yeah, UFO death cult's just not...
Oh, do you guys know about Ultramarico?
No, tell me about it.
It's a Japanese cult that basically militarized, and they actually performed the largest act of domestic terrorism in Japanese history.
What is that?
Where they lit a bunch of gas canisters and poisoned a whole bunch of people and could have killed a lot more if they didn't fuck up slightly.
Wow.
They could have killed 900 people and they only killed 30.
That reminds me of the whole Osho thing, because... Go ahead, Stephen. Tell us about Osho.
Okay, so I didn't really research him like as much as I was planning on, because it was shadow work. But I posted something on Facebook. It was like a really good quote, but you told me about him, and I researched him like a little bit, and he was basically like Joel Osteen of the metaphysical world, where he was basically like a Rolls Royce guru. It's like, if you follow spiritual practices, you can have all this luxury, and
You too can have 100 Rolls Royces.
Yeah, he was like a health and wealth kind of guy, and like...
He was like a Joel Osteen cult leader of the yogis, yeah.
And it was just total bullcrap, because that's not, what spirituality is about.
So, did you read anything about like the biological terrorism that
they did? That, which I thought was kind of, I think they were missing the whole thing about, the Trail of Tears being the first, Anyway, that's beside the point. Like, they incorporated a bunch of contaminated chicken or food into their community and had like salmonella and stuff. And it was
I think it was the local communities that were contesting their city's existence. They basically led biological attacks on those cities.
It was disgusting. Like, there was no point in doing it except, you should lead spiritual lives and you'll get better. It was full of crap.
It was really weird.
What's so crazy is people still follow him. Like, there was a whole section of Osho.
Well, he got out of prison and he reordered himself and started being a guru.
The problem with people in cults is that they don't want to ever admit to being wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So like after you're already deep in the cult, you've already cut ties with your family, moved to fucking whatever random part of the fucking world they go to, right? Like you've already moved to Jonestown. You don't want to think you're wrong, so you just live the life because you're like, yeah, I like communism. I like whatever the fuck they try to do to sell you on it and take advantage of
What the
it.
hell is that?
OTO, Ordo Templi Orientis, a very renowned esoteric order.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a secret society, though. I'd call it an esoteric order.
Yeah. Well, that is supposed to be some sort of secret society, right?
I don't think it's really a secret. I think
society with secrets.
It's
Because we
the
know
same thing as
society exists, right?
it's the same thing as Freemasonry, where it's like, oh well, there are certain symbols, but if you join the order, we'll educate you about the symbols. To me, that's not really a secret society because they say they have like recruitment efforts. If you have recruitment efforts, you're really not a secret society, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And then you come in and they teach you about the meaning of symbols. That to me is not a secret society. That's a society. I mean, you could consider any university to be a society with secrets. You know, you have to sign up and you have to pay a lot of money, and then they'll give you their secrets about economy or mathematics or algebra. You know, it's the same thing. Here are some symbols, and we're going to tell you the meaning of them and how you can apply them in your own life. It's an education experience.
This man has a dick on his
He
forehead.
does have a dick on his head. I just saw that at the same time too. I don't know if you can see this. This is National Geographic Secret Society's episode, magazine, but that's the picture they have with it. He definitely has a dick on his head.
You pass out at a Ordo Templi.
Yeah, OTO. Most people know it as the OTO.
OTO parties. Yeah. No, that's the one that follows Crowley, right?
Yes, Crowley was fundamental in OTO.
Yeah. Which means that they're fucking nuts.
You think so? Why don't you like Crowley? And just to be straight, I don't like Crowley either.
Right? Yeah, no, he's I mean, he fucking like literally abused people and just pulled them out into the desert.
Yes.
Yeah, he tried to be anyway.
Yeah, and you know,
He mostly just took advantage of people and did the Rasputin thing.
I believe that's the case. I'm very disappointed that a lot of people read his works and then apply them and revere him as some sort of mystic and esotericist that was enlightened when clearly I don't think that he was. I think he was really obsessed with dark things, and I think he navigated into definitely esoteric and mystic practices, but we have to be wary of the applications of those things, just as, you know, you can use a power tool to kill somebody or you can use it to build a house. And I think that Crowley was leaning more towards the, oh, well, we'll use it to do whatever we want with it. And it's interesting for sure, but the fact that so many people, I think, revere him as this enlightened figure of magic is appalling to me. It's just as appalling as the Osho thing, right? Like, let's kill hundreds of people with biological terrorism. Well, you know, he has some wisdom in him. You know, I don't think it's worth considering at that point. If your wisdom led you to such an extreme state that you felt like it was appropriate to use biological terrorism or, you know, sodomize people in the desert and then leave them for dead, I don't feel like that's a really good philosophy to follow, in my personal opinion.
No, 100%. It's, I mean, you know, it's the kind of philosophy where, like, you follow, like, LaVeyan Satanism, which isn't necessarily that bad.
Nah, Satanists are pretty good, yeah.
Obviously, Steve, yeah, right?
I think it comes from
Although
that.
when you say Satanism, it's because of people latch onto it because they want to feel edgy, right?
Yeah, like, okay,
And
case in point.
all it does is make you a selfish brat.
Exactly, like, case in point.
That's the philosophy,
So
be a selfish brat.
The
Do what you want.
equates
Whine about it.
witchcraft with Satanism. Like, those are totally two different things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ignorance floating around within these categories. I feel like there's I think the Satanic Church, and the Satanic Church really just I think, don't quote me on this, right? But there's one organization that's Satanist that really just prides itself on contrasting what's written in the Bible.
Yeah.
And so they cherry pick the worst things out of the Bible, and then they reverse it and say, well, I would never do that because I'm a Satanist. But that's not really following Satan. That's just
And then
spiting. That's spiting what is there.
Yeah,
and the
It's
attitude
the
of it.
anti-church.
You got
It is
people
the
that
anti-church, yeah.
follow the church of Satan, but then you got people who follow the teaching, like the teachings of Lucifer, where they're totally two different things.
Let me finish with this real quick.
Yeah, sorry.
But the I think it's I don't think it's Church of Satan. I think it's something else actually. But anyways, this one where it's like, here's the tenets of Satanism, here's the 10, and it's all directly contrasting of things written in the Bible. It just exists to spite and bring attention to the negative things that are written in the Bible. That's really its purpose. And then there are other people who actually worship.
It's satire.
It feels to me like it is, in contrast, but it takes the name and discredits the Satanism which actually exists, where people pursue demons and the idea of Satan and Lucifer, which is a lot of goetic a lot of the time. And goetic is a cast of 72 demons, which is ancient and associated with Solomon, and they deal with that stuff. And I feel like people can get into that for all sorts of reasons. But I feel like there's a lot that gets thrown into Satanism and Satan and Luciferianism, and it's really convoluted, and nobody can really make sense of it. I was listening to some guy on YouTube talk about how a frequent, I don't know what to call it, but people in satanic groups will frequently say something like, Shimham Forash, if they really agree with something, like, oh man, that's really the way to the light. And Shimham Forash is associated with angels. And I was listening to this video of this guy talking about how that makes no sense at all within the scope of the church, and how in LaVeyan Satanism he had just picked a bunch of stuff that was normally associated with esoteric studies, and he had just slapped them into Satanism as a esoteric order with the label of Satan on it, and you did all these various different things associated with esotericism, but it really had no structuring framework that went along with it. So unfortunately to me, that doesn't stand up very well when you start talking about, what does it mean to be a Satanist? So I feel like they need better representation for sure, if that's what they believe in.
For sure. The whole thing with all the different churches of Satan and Satanism, I mean, it's all relatively pointing towards the same figure of the selfish, cast out brat.
I don't think so. I think it deals a lot with like Lightbringer, and I think that you have organizations that are like that do it out of spite.
Looking at the Lightbringer aspect of Satan, where he brought us truth and he brought us knowledge, right?
Yes, I think it's the same story of Prometheus. He brings knowledge and he does it, and Zeus gets really mad and gets pissed off at him for it, but ultimately he did it because he loves humanity, or for whatever reasons he had for being Prometheus.
It's so weird that Prometheus was a Titan.
Yeah.
And, the gods are lesser than Titans, and then, I found that very interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird. It seems to me that the gods want to think the Titans are lesser than them, but the Titans came first.
Yeah.
And it's the same story in Norse mythology of the Jotunheim and the gods.
Yeah.
It's the same exact story with the giant Titans and the gods. To me, that's just really, really very strange.
And what's so crazy is you might look at it as, civilizations, past civilizations and past eras where, the Titans created the gods created us, and at a point in time, the gods overthrew the Titans, and we're at that point now to where, with technology and understanding, we're about to overthrow the gods.
Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah,
I was actually thinking about a similar idea.
Yeah, because we're starting to see in culture and, TED Talks, how, we ascended to the same level as the gods. So maybe within the next, 100 years, we'll overthrow the gods.
Well, that's the eternal cycle. Is the Titans first were gods of the universe, then the gods came, and then they overthrew the Titans.
Yeah.
And then the gods had a part in creating humans, and they considered them lessers. And then I think the humans, and they, in like Greek mythology, they created demigods, and those demigods would frequently go on to challenge the rule of gods.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I totally believe that if you were to apply that cycle to us, then we would, in that same mythology story, if you continued it until now, go on to overthrow the gods.
I mean, it's like if we see it in our own lives, not like that drastic, but
it's an interesting observation is that we've gone from polytheism down to monotheism, and now
we're going back.
We're pronouncing the death of God.
Yeah, like we're slowly going back to polytheism.
Yeah, even being able to acknowledge and realize the influence of gods and demons and stuff like that, I feel like is inherently polytheistic. Once you realize that there are more spirits at work than there appear to be.
Oh yeah. Although, and the monotheistic moniker is kind of wrong, because there are a lot of entities within the religion that exist outside of the God themselves.
I completely agree. Like angels themselves could be construed to be gods, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Angels, demons, the devil.
You come down and you influence human society, and you impart the knowledge that you want them to have, or you influence their society in a certain way. That's basically
what demigods do.
Could easily establish a polytheistic system based on the influence of the angels, which is primarily the messenger of God. Yeah. So I think that's pretty funny. If you were to read the Bible in that way, you would say, "Oh, okay."
It's actually the messengers, kind of like the angels are the gods, and then God would be the Titan to them.
If somebody interpreted the messenger of God, the angels, as being a god, which was completely reasonable to do, then you could easily get a polytheistic system out of that. And what's funny is you get...
you've actually been watching Supernatural, right?
Yeah, I've seen Supernatural.
So you know how they talk about how no one really knows who God is, no one really talks to God?
Chuck? You haven't gotten far enough, have you?
I watched 11 seasons when I was in 7th grade.
Oh, then you should know who Chuck is.
Yeah, Chuck was the guy that owned the bar, or he was in the bar.
He was the writer
that owned the bar.
That hosted the Supernatural convention. Remember him?
Yeah, he was the writer who kept having the vision.
The writer that wrote about...
Yes, okay.
That's God.
Ringing bells. But
what was
that referencing from Supernatural?
Random.
God. Nobody knows who God is, they can't find God, and it turns out God was just screwing with everybody. Because he's just a writer. He writes the story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, man. We're in the last season now. You catch up, buddy.
Where the fuck is that?
There's a lot going on with Chuck right now.
What's the fucking? He's God.
He's God. You got to get up with the times.
That's insane.
And he had a fucking...
That whole story is coming to a close right now, because.
Wait, did they fight the Nazis already?
What?
Yeah, apparently they're gonna fight Nazis in season 14.
Oh, the Thule Society.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
They did a little bit of that, like with the Golem episode.
That was not season 14. That was way.
No, that was season.
That was Thule Society stuff. Yeah, they kind of peppered it in. I'm glad they didn't.
That was
do as much with that.
Kind of late in it. That's when they found that big library with the.
That was early on. That was like season 6 or something, and then they made that library their home.
Oh yeah,
and then they were on a boat for a while.
Men of Letters. The Men of Letters bunker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I binge watched Supernatural in the last year.
Like 10 years.
But you know what? Like going back to the gods and the titans and all that. Like we're starting to create artificial intelligence and robots. Like within the next 25 years, we're going to create artificial sentient, and we're going to be the gods. And then
Yeah, we are actually already creating AI that is astoundingly similar to life. I mean, I've been playing Fallen Order, right? And like we were talking about earlier, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
And you have a droid that runs around with you the entire time. And I was thinking today about the philosophy of imprinting a personality in a droid.
Well,
why would you want to imprint a personality in a function-based, or not even an organism, right? A construction.
Yeah.
If it's your only companion when you're traveling through deep space, it would benefit you to have something to talk to.
Right, and to have it have a personality, because that allows us to connect with it.
I would
right?
suggest you guys watch Caprica and Battlestar Galactica.
Maybe I will next.
I didn't even watch Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica, like, because like these Cylons, these robots develop artificial sentience. Like, that is incredible.
Accidentally?
Basically, yeah. Like, you have to watch the prequel, Caprica, but it all started with a fucking malfunction. Some girl was wearing like basically VR goggles.
Fucking VR.
Yeah, but she died while wearing those goggles, and like her consciousness was imprinted in a program. Like it was more than just, you know, like what we have now. Basically, it's downloading your consciousness into
kinda like how
virtual
Black Mirror
reality,
does it.
making it into an avatar. But like when she was wearing those glasses, she died while wearing those glasses, and like so her brain waves were actually stuck in the cloud.
It sounds like that Johnny Depp movie where he dies and they put him in that AI body.
That's exactly what happened.
Interesting.
Yeah, I haven't seen that movie, but I really want to watch it.
It's a big, you know, blockbuster kind of movie.
Yeah, it's basically what we're doing now. Within the next 10 to 20 years, will be like that movie Ex Machina.
Ex Machina?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, yeah. You know what Ex Machina means?
No.
The function, like the process.
Out of the machine.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's the other way. It means like through machination, as in like a process. How we'd say a process.
Yeah, out of the process that occurred.
Yeah, from the machine,
Mm-hmm.
or from some sort of like external force, like
So we're essentially
the progression of that is Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah,
or
so-
Deus Ex Machina.
We're essentially doing what the gods did so long ago.
Miracle out of the machine.
Creating basically our own children, our own different race of beings.
Yeah, we're creating not even a race, not even a species, not even a kingdom. It's completely separate from
going
what
back
we
to
are.
what we were talking about
Machines.
earlier with titans and then gods and then us. We're creating AI, which we think is lesser than us, but it will come to surpass us after we've killed God.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems like there's some sort of message there, and to me that even speaks to ancient anthropology involving aliens, that the aliens came and they gave us at least a story that said we're rebelling from our creators, we have become greater than our creators, and now we are creating you. And in time, if you look at this cycle, you too will make creations that surpass you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the nature of life, is to
That is
create,
the nature of life. Fuck.
create
Exactly.
so well and so adamantly that your creations become superior to you.
Isn't that what you and I talked about, like with having children a few
Yeah.
weeks ago?
You want your
Did we
kids to
just-
be better than you,
Did we
right?
just answer the meaning of life?
Yeah, I think
create.
we did. I think we did.
We are created in the
Yeah.
image of the
I feel like
creator.
that is something someone's written at some point.
I think that's applicable. I
But
always
that does feel like a core truth.
Man
Yeah,
was
I
made
mean-
in the image of God.
what?
Man was made in the image of God.
So why not?
I like to say
No.
man was made in the image of the creator, because it implies that you were made to be a creator.
Yeah.
That's your core essence.
I mean, if God
Before we
made
knew
us in his
anything.
image, why not be like God?
We need to create, right?
Yeah, right. The core essence of the creator is creation.
I mean, literally everything that we are completely surrounded by right now is created.
Yeah,
There would
in
be
that
nothing.
metaphor.
In
Yeah.
this airspace right now, there would be absolutely nothing if it weren't for the many, many creations of human beings.
Yes. Not only the creations that we've made, but the creations of the universe, right? We could call them creations of the universe. Us, our biological bodies, the air, the composition of nature.
Exactly, and including us.
Yeah. The creation of natural selection, the creation of Earth. All of these things could be construed as being creation. I love the term creation. Like, we live in creation, because it brings it back. Not to the idea that like we were created 6,000 years ago, but that the universe is inherently built on this process of creation. And I like that idea. I do. That we are creating to be better. and that we should create a better future for ourselves that allows everybody to create.
How deep does the deep state go?
Yeah, maybe
We should try to pull back in a little bit. We talked about a lot of anthropology though.
so lizard people, where are they at and how do they control society?
Maybe they're the creators, right?
I don't think so, because they would have been created in some capacity.
Maybe they were a bad game of Sims. Like the aliens created lizard people because they found lizards here.
Yeah.
They're like, let's make these into people, and they're like, oh no,
Oh.
these things suck.
No, that was
And
not
we tried to
good.
kill them all, and then
What
some
if
of them
they're
survived.
creations of the
And then they created us, and they forgot about the lizard people. But the lizard people have been influencing us quietly with a very small population.
I could see like lizard people being some sort of weird extraterrestrial society that lives underground, and then they just deal with us. Like we live on the surface, and they're like, "Oh, that's weird. That's not something we're used to." But there's now an intelligent society on the outside. What do we do about that? And they're just like, "Don't acknowledge it. Don't acknowledge it at all. Just fly out, fly back in. Don't stop."
Actually, it would make sense that there would be an intelligent race of lizards, right? Because if there was, okay, so like a highly intelligent race of lizards, because of the way that mammalian evolution continued after that mass extinction, where all the dinosaurs went extinct.
Well, it's weird to
And a lot of things were just lizards and cold-blooded.
we didn't have a lot. We don't have a lot of archaeological record. Like we think that we've captured most of it. Wrong. We've lost 99.9% of everything that ever lived. We just don't have record of it, and so the things that we pull are only a small spectrum of what lived, and that was just
We
because
pulled one corpse of one giant brontosaurus, and there were a whole herd of them around there somewhere.
right, and one gets preserved, and we get the fossil evidence of that, but we don't really know what that world looked like. All we have is small samples of it, and there's a couple of creatures that seem to have gotten very close, and I think like let me switch over real quick. The fact that like we have a cat living with us right now, and they're part of our society, indicates that this isn't a unique feature to us. Communication and community arises differently, and
Right, so what if raptors were bred to hunt like we bred dogs?
raptors could have easily, I think, adapted into a communicable society, just like dolphins, just like dogs, just like cats. Like we literally live with cats because we somehow evolved the same trait in that we function better as a community and we support each other better as a community. And so that trait is translatable. We don't have to speak the same language. We can live with cats, we can live with birds, we can live with dogs, we can live with things that are communicable, and we enjoy living with them because we share the same trait. So velociraptors obviously indicated that they were aware and understood this trait. They hunt better together, they live better, they survive better together. So if that was the case in a whole kingdom, I don't see why it would have been ridiculous for like something close to an intelligent species or an intelligent species to have arisen from those communicability natural evolutions which already existed and we know existed.
Yeah, I mean, things already hunted in packs. There's already community between a lot of creatures throughout history, assumedly, right?
Yeah, assumedly, but we have pretty strong indications
I mean,
that velociraptors hunted in packs.
Right, like birds, for example. Birds
Yes.
evolved from dinosaurs that survived the mass extinction by being, having the ability of flight.
But birds are also an evidence that they've lived from velociraptors and T-Rexes and independent and communicable things, and they still exist today as communicable things, but they're not up to our level. So there's a lot of speciation that occurs, so it sure could have gone into an intelligent species, and we just don't have a record of that. But it also exists today as things like geese.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
No, geese are fucking horrifying.
Geese and ducks, they live
teeth.
in communicable societies, they interact with each other, they interact with us, they can be friendly with us. They have those same traits as cats and dogs and humans, but they just, they're ducks.
Right, but biologically, Geese are terrifying. It's like they regressed back into being raptors slightly, which is
They started capitalizing on fear.
oh yeah,
Geese, that's what they do. They capitalize on fear.
the honking. Yes.
They rule by fear.
Fear the honk. Are geese part of the deep state?
They probably could be.
Right.
You know, I've heard a theory that birds aren't real.
Yeah.
You guys heard about
Probably
that?
Wrong.
Say it again.
Birds aren't real. They're just government drones.
Probably some of them,
How
honestly, at this
advanced
point.
would the government have to be make flesh and brains
And replace the memory of every human being ever that birds always existed.
No. Listen, guys. They killed off all the birds and made replacement drones, and now the drones spy on us.
Ah. That sounds like a schizophrenic's writing on like some random web forum.
No, there's a website.
Man,
Birds
there's a lot of writing on the deep state that is definitely some random schizophrenic.
Birdsaren'treal.com. But yeah, there is, there's a lot of, it ventures into a territory where we can realistically discuss it, but also people are naturally going to adopt those things and go crazy with them.
Yeah, right, because they just keep thinking about it like, oh shit, this applies to my life for some reason.
Yeah, it can be, some people get delusional and fall into these ideas that there's...
Yeah, well, they feel like there's a real threat from it. There's a problem.
Yeah. A lot of people, like the gang stalking thing, they think that people around them in large droves exist and are employed or whatever way to like spy on them because they're too enlightened or something. The reason varies, but the fundamental core component is that they've discovered something or they are something, or for no reason at all the government has hired hundreds and hundreds of people to spy on them, and everybody they
Where are
interact
the
with is
resources?
spying on them. What?
On average, you would know one of these people.
Right.
Like, what do you for work? Oh, I
Right.
gang stalk. Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, how would you get... It's unreasonable, it's delusional. You feel like... It's got to be a symptom of paranoia, is that you feel like everybody around you is spying on you.
Yeah.
And so when you use confirmation bias like that, then you start to pick up things. You know, you listened to what I said and you commented on it in such a way that I could construe it to be because you were employed by a government agency, that you would try to get more information out of me. And it's like, no, that's a human thing. You know, we talk to each other and what did you mean? Tell me more. That's something we do naturally.
Right.
So when you I assume delusional, you would construe these things using confirmation bias and see them as whatever you want to see them as, and then pick apart the data and say, okay, well, the data supports my conclusion because I took only one example of the data and I pulled it.
Right. Like, you can construe any number of statistics to work in some sort of favor for you.
Yeah, if your confirmation bias is strong enough, you can construe anything to be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah,
you see it all the time on Facebook.
Right? I was about to say, that's one of the main problems with like the echo chambers that a lot of people get into, but in a lot of political groups.
Echo chambers don't help too. Because the internet allows these people to find people with similar delusions, which is probably from a similar malfunction in the brain or, you know, environmental stimuli or whatever. And then they feed on each other and they say, yes, what you're going through is real. There are hundreds of government agents that are actually stalking you. I know because I've been suffering this delusion for a year. So you have to, if you're a skeptic about these things, but you're also a believer, you have to be able to weed through these things and say, you know, what stands up to reason.
That's schizophrenic. Oh, they actually didn't say anything anti-Semitic the whole rant. Maybe there's something to this.
I'm always willing to entertain an idea, and I'll listen to it, and I will listen to it without any judgment, and I want to believe, but I have to take it for what it is. And I think that's a great trait to have, is that you establish and root yourself with realism.
Right.
And you entertain any of these ridiculous and paranormal and supernatural ideas, and then you see them for what they are, because you're rooted in reality. If it is truly unexplainable, then it truly is. But it's not unexplainable because we want it to be unexplainable.
Yeah, no. If someone starts going on some sort of ramble that goes deep into something that really doesn't make sense at the core of it, it's like flat Earth, then you know, like, what kind of arguments they try to use in order to convince you that this totally absurd thing exists.
Yeah, flat Earth is a great example, and we're probably going to piss off some flat earthers, but you know, you can obviously test yourself
It's
that
a bag of bullshit.
flat Earth is not true. And in fact, people did that. They tried to get some sort of gyroscopic measurement tool, and they tried to test that the Earth wasn't actually rotating, and they found that the Earth actually was rotating. And unfortunately, the gyroscopic measurement tool was actually rotating, and you had to calibrate for that. So they started to actually say, okay, well, I think the Earth is actually rotating. So it was really funny because it was funded by flat earthers, and they funded them for this equipment, and the equipment indicated that the Earth was rotating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what can you do about that, you know? Oh, yeah.
It's over, guys. Let's all go home.
Yeah, right. Oh, I think these guys
Maybe
are actually
NASA
right.
isn't a bunch of bullshit.
Those damn round earthers, I think they are
What's-
actually correct.
What's their fake acronym for NASA? Do you know it?
No.
Oh, they have a
We
really
could-
funny bullshit one.
We could make one up. Ephraim, make up an acronym for NASA.
New ascending steady difficulty. Oh wait, that's what they hate when I'm talking about. This is
NASA. No,
What?
those
Say that
space
one.
astronauts.
Dude, I don't remember when I started. Because like the question was like so. I'm like, I don't even know what to say.
What about you, Dylan? What's your acronym for NASA?
Not another space agency.
I think that's kind of close.
Yeah. Steven, make up an acronym for NASA.
Nazis are super annoying.
Yeah. There we go.
I like it.
Yeah, topical too, because of all the
Considering
Nazi
it's
scientists at
NASA.
NASA.
We can put that to use.
Yeah, considering the father of NASA was an SS officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He named it after his own failure.
Yeah.
Really fun.
Hey, listen, how do you guys feel about the idea of supernatural charades?
I don't even know what the heck that is.
I want to know more.
Okay, so listen, this is my idea for a skit, and I'm gonna tell you guys too. We'll let you in on the secret, right? Okay, so supernatural charades is like we come up with supernatural concepts, like let's say a werewolf or a ghost investigator, and you have to act it out.
Oh,
And
it's
I-
just charades, but with themes.
It's charades, but with supernatural themes. But I feel like this makes it fundamentally very difficult because how do you express the idea of a ghost in charades?
You find the nearest white sheet.
No, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You have to just act it out.
Yeah, right.
Right?
That's
yeah.
Not, that's not ghosty.
Ephraim, you want to give it a go?
You might think gypsy if I did that.
Okay, so what's the basis of the question?
Okay, so we're gonna do charades, and
Okay.
you have to act out a supernatural concept.
Okay.
So are you good with that? I'll write one down.
Like a supernatural concept.
Oh no! Here.
Oh shit! Let me borrow your pen.
Yeah.
Does SpongeBob count as one?
No.
Oh. I was thinking of the Flying Dutchman.
The Flying Dutchman would actually count as a
Really?
as supernatural.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Ephraim, unfold that, and that's your charade.
Boy, here we go.
You're guessing two Dylans, so don't peek.
You're gonna make this.
Yeah, get up there.
We're doing
Okay.
charades.
All right, stand up. You
no,
got this.
Not standing up. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Not the standing up.
Not the standing up. Fine.
Oh, we gotta adjust this camera. There we go.
I don't even know what the heck this thing really does. I saw your keys, by the way.
All right, guys. Ephraim's about to do a charades of a certain supernatural entity, so it's up to us to guess.
Alright.
Whoever guesses correct gets, future favor points.
Alright.
I'm not gonna guess. I'm the facilitator here.
Alright.
Oh boy, here.
Poltergeist? Werewolf. Jackal! Jackal! It's jackal!
Demon.
It sleeps.
Shapeshifter.
How many words?
It's what word?
How many syllables?
Vertigo.
4 syllables.
4. Chupacabra.
Yeah.
Oh shit! So, how did you know it was chupacabra?
Because they already just guessed jackal, and he was being a super sneaky animal thing, and it was sleeping, so it was biological, so it was just like some like weird little sneaky little bitch, and then 1 word, 4 syllables. Chupacabra.
Yeah, very cool.
I was like, what the fuck
okay.
is 4 syllables?
I would have maybe like sucked somebody's blood or something.
That's what I did. I like slashed it and stuff.
Oh.
Oh, there we go, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
didn't notice
that's a
that
good
one.
idea.
That's good.
Maybe I should
I
have
like that.
Sound effects.
Yeah, that's okay. That's acceptable. Steven, you want to do one?
Oh yeah, let me
Yeah, let's get one.
What, you want to come up with one and then we have to guess it?
You want me to add it?
Oh, that's good.
absolutely.
Okay, so what are you gonna do, Steven?
I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna come up with it.
Okay, you know what you're gonna come up with?
Yes.
Okay, do it. Let's roll.
Do it.
Come on, Steven, you got this.
Oh, I thought I was just gonna come up with it and someone else does it.
No, you come up with it and do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude.
You gotta charade it.
No.
Yeah, you can charade it. You got this.
No.
I believe in you, dude.
No, I'm trying to relax. I'm like really queasy right now.
Aww, this old human,
I know.
Poor old mortal.
right?
Uh,
Fucking meat sacks, man.
Hold on. Let me see if I can like come up with one that's just where I'm just chilling out.
Snorlax.
Ah, got him.
That's a cryptid.
So where's the Pokey Flute? Oh man. Oh.
Next episode, are Pokemon's cryptids?
Alright.
Are you still awake, sir?
Kind of. Are they tulpas? Do you think we can, if enough people believe in Pokemon, we can make Pokemon real? Kind of like the cat girl thing.
Let's hope Pokemon into reality. We gotta get everybody on
They
this
kinda
page.
did that at the
Seriously.
cartoon monster.
Everybody, we now believe in Pikachu. Pikachu is a real mouse. He can really shock people with his little red dots on his
He sounds
yellow
like Ryan Reynolds.
body.
Yo, I have to tell you
And
guys about this funny.
He doesn't sound anything like Ryan Reynolds.
Steven, go ahead and
Only
tell
one
us
of them
about it.
does. The detective one.
Yeah, tell us about whatever you can tell us about.
Oh, okay. So like I had this. It was really. I woke up laughing my ass off. But I had a dream. Like it was like 4 years from now. But the Smash Brothers cinematic universe is just taking off, and Pikachu and Sonic visit. Like they visit Hyrule, and like Pikachu saw like a Zora or a Goron. I can't remember. But Pikachu was like, "What is this?" And like he threw a Pokeball at it, and it was like, "This isn't a Pokemon." It was just really, but like all you can hear is Ryan Reynolds' voice, you know, like just talking shit about all the races and Hyrule. Like,
Do you think a Pokeball will work on a person?
it was so funny.
Do we ever see in
This is what
Pokemon-
you dream about?
throughout
It was so weird.
throughout the entire anime for Pokemon? Anybody watches this? Do they fucking ever try to throw a Pokeball at a person?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I would imagine it would work.
Shouldn't it?
Shouldn't it?
Or is there some inherent property of Pokemon that makes them like?
Apparently, people are Pokemon too in the Pokemon universe.
Well, yeah. I mean, it would just be like animals and organisms.
Yeah,
you know?
there's like a god Pokemon, right?
Isn't that what Mewtwo is?
No.
No, Mewtwo's like a
Mew.
But Mew is kind
no
of like.
Arceus.
I actually tried watching this thing that they tried explaining like the whole story of Pokemon, and it's like evolution. It's all about like Darwinism and shit like that. But it's so hard and so confusing to follow. And then they try to get into like parallel universes and shit. But basically, it's like there is one god Pokemon that made like these other Pokemon that made the universe, and like the Mews were like the only Pokemon around at one point, and then evolution happened and they turned into things because of their environment, and then eventually like became people as well. So like people are Pokemon too.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard, dude.
So Mews were like the like Star Child,
Mews
like
were,
the Star Seed.
Yeah, they were like
Blank slate
evolutionary
Pokemon?
Dittos, I guess. Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Dittos were actually like man-made. Apparently.
Man-made?
Yeah,
makes sense.
Ditto was made in a lab.
So it was like
from-
Porygon and
Ditto was actually made from the DNA of Mew.
Maybe
Okay.
they like extracted Mew.
Yeah.
So it's about time. Do you guys have anything to close it out?
gotta catch them all, kids.
Yeah, right. Got to catch all them perpetrators of heinous war crimes throughout
Steven.
the deep state.
What do you have to say goodnight?
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
All right.
Take
very-
Zyrtec. Take
Take
a Zyrtec.
take a fucking Zyrtec.
If you're having allergy problems, you should probably take a Zyrtec.
Yes.
Also, get good sleep and don't become a raging alcoholic.
That's
hopefully.
definitely good advice.
Yeah.
Spooky Skeleton Man, what do you have to say?
I don't have the guts to talk right now.
Got him.
Yes.
Got him.
That was
Let me
humorous.
get this on camera.
That's
Dabbing on them.
racist.
Dabbing all the
I'm
haters.
kind of offended.
Ephraim?
Didn't you go?
No, you didn't go yet. What do you have to say?
All I'm gonna say is always
Oh.
be cool and stay in school.
Don't do
Great
great
advice.
advice.
Stay in drug school.
Yeah.
Drink
Inject
your
your
skull,
milk.
say no to drugs.
All right. Well, I guess that about wraps it up. You have anything to say, Jason?
I believe that we're all going to be here next week.
I think we're gonna be here next week too.
There may be an asteroid hitting the planet. That's
hope
in the
so.
news.
It's
I
like
mean,
more
I feel like that's
like
happened several
nine
times before, but this one feels like more real.
Yeah,
Let's
we'll
go.
see. If I have anything left to say,
Dice and let's see if it lands.
We can all die in 2 weeks. This is actually mildly an emergency broadcast.
it may be. Yeah.
Not 2
this
weeks.
may
So
A
be.
month,
that's
a month and
supposed to
2 weeks. I
happen next
misspoke
week?
as a drunk person. It happens in a month and 2 weeks on the 21st.
Oh, great. At least we can celebrate Thanksgiving first.
Yeah, we will get a dead Christmas, not a white Christmas.
For Christmas, we'll all die. What a great Christmas gift.
Yay.
All right. Well, you know
Wonderful.
what? That's been hidden knowledge of the modern time for this week. Watch out for lizard people. Don't let them control your life or stalk you.
I hope
So-
you've learned something hidden.
Remember my old cat.
We'll be back probably talking about Deep State Part 3 next week. So you never know.
That is possible.
I feel like
We have a couple lined up, but we need specific guests to show up.
Yeah, we need some special guests. Let us know what you think. Remember, if you like this, subscribe. We're getting better all the time, so we would appreciate your support. Comment on our video. Subscribe. Definitely.
Like, share, and subscribe, guys.
Subscribe whether you want to or not. That would be very helpful to
Right.
us. Yes.
Generally speaking, if you want to see us again at some point in the future, you've watched this far. I mean, this is over an hour. You've dedicated over an hour of your life to watching us talk. At this point.
Lizard people will show up in your room at night and stare ominously in the corner if you don't subscribe. So go ahead and click the subscribe button. and we'll see you next week.
Logically, it follows that you'll do this again.
All right, see you next week. This has been Hidden Knowledge of the Modern Times.
This has been.
Peace out. Don't get killed by an asteroid.
Right? Fuck Sabretooth.